Well, the road trip is over, and it was a disaster for the White Sox. Let's discuss next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com. Also, I've covered Major League Baseball in the past for outlets such as Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And hey, make sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and give a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, as it would be greatly appreciated. All right, tell me if you've heard this one before. The White Sox had a lead against the Twins and blew it over the final 4 innings, because that is what happened yesterday as the White Sox lost to the Minnesota Twins 6-3 in the series finale of a 4-game series. They were swept by the Twins in Minneapolis. The Sox are now 3-22 and have lost 7 straight games. That losing streak coincides with a 7-game road trip from heck. Yes, it was a 7-game road trip from heck. Got to keep this G-rated, folks. And it just wrapped up. And that's what I'm going to discuss, the futile road trip, and how much more can we take? And then let's switch gears and go over who is this week's What Is It You Say You Do here. And finally, the Sox need some hope. Where's it going to come from? But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Okay, so the Sox got destroyed in Philadelphia last weekend, where they were barely competitive. They were outscored 24-7, but the Phillies are a really good team. The Twins, on the other hand, they're struggling to hit at the beginning of the season. But the schedule shined favor upon the Twinkies, especially when it came to their bats, and they got to face the White Sox in a 4-game series to get right, and boy, did they get right. They outscored the Sox 25-11 in this 4-game set. The Twins rallied back twice in this series to beat the Sox. And yes, the Sox had 2 rare opportunities to win, and somehow snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Sorry, taking a quick coffee sip. As you guys know, I'm wrapping up my second full week as the host of Locked On White Sox. I do enjoy my coffee. I'm out of half and half, so I've had to use whole milk. I feel like I should just talk about my coffee. I think that would be much more pleasant for you to listen to than the White Sox struggling. I don't even think you can say it's struggling. They're terrible. But anyways, Sox had 2 opportunities and walked away like the losers that they are this season. 2 opportunities to win. Yesterday, Michael Soroka was outstanding through 5 innings. Through 5 shutout innings, he was getting his pitches over for strikes. And then the 6th came. He gave up back-to-back jacks, and eventually Tanner Banks came in and gave up the lead. And the Twins did not look back. They had a couple runs later in the game. Edward Julian, he had 2 homers in this game. And in the 8th, the Twins got back-to-back jacks again. Now, the Sox had a chance to tie and even win the game in the 9th, because Pedro's boys didn't quit. Had the bases loaded, but were only able to get 1 run out of it. Eloy Jimenez, he struck out, as he did have a huge opportunity to tie the game with just 1 swing. And then after Robbie Grossman at least knocked in that 1 run, Andrew Vaughn grounded out to end the game. And don't worry, we'll address Andrew Vaughn in the next segment. Here's a tease. He's this week's What Is It You Say You Do Here player. But you do have to ask, how much more could we take? Jay Kuda tweeted this out from @JayKuda. White Sox are the third team ever in the 124-year history of the American League to lose 22 of 25 games to start the year, and they think it's fine. And then he has a graphic up of the two other teams and their logos. So it's the 1988 Orioles fired their manager on April 11th. 2003 Tigers fired GM April 8th. 2004 White Sox continue to flush it and keep working hard, because that has been the response from Pedro Grifol and the players. Pedro Grifol, we just got to flush it. I've been hearing you talking about flushing losses for, let's see if I can do my math, 101 plus 22. Wouldn't that be 123 times? At some point, I get, again, it's baseball. There's 162 games. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But when you lose 123 times, if my math is correct, without the use of a calculator, at some point you have to say we can no longer flush this. And I feel like I'm a broken record, but somebody has to take accountability for this. And it can't just be, well, we're working hard, we're flushing it because the toilet's clogged. And at some point, maybe a new voice, especially when Charlie Montoya is sitting right next to Pedro Grifol. Charlie Montoya has actually been a successful manager. Pedro Grifol was not even hired by the Kansas City Royals. The Royals had an opening last season and didn't promote him. Scott Merkin also tweeted this one out, @Scott Merkin. With Cleveland's win today, the Sox are 15 games out of first in the AL Central. They are 2-15 versus the AL Central and 1-7 versus the NL. The White Sox are 3-20 versus the AL Central dating back to September 12th of 23, and 10-33 dating back to 7/21/23. You can't even beat your division, and you keep saying, hey, we're in the AL Central. We got a chance. And yes, the AL Central is a terrible division. It's the worst in baseball. But you can't even beat them. How much more can we take? How much more can you take? How much more can I take? Well, I signed up to take this for as long as lockdown will have me. And I hope it's a really long time, because I like talking to you. And maybe it's my therapy. But it's just something eventually has to be done. You can't just keep saying, oh, we got to flush it. Because while we knew it was going to be bad, we were supposed to have grinder baseball. And I thought grinder baseball means you're going to grind out some wins. You're going to work harder than them. And again, this shows that while, yes, you want to have a good clubhouse, you want to be able to catch the ball, you got to have talent. Talent overrides those two things. And especially a clubhouse, you can have people that don't like each other. Think about your work environment. Do you like everybody? But maybe you have a leader who can get everybody to at least pull together. And that has not happened under Pedro Grifol. And somehow he gets deflected from it. And I know it's not all of Pedro's fault. It's the front office's fault. It's the players' fault too. But this has just been a dumpster fire because, again, they prioritized the wrong stuff in the offseason. And we're going to discuss how badly this team, or especially the front office, is misjudging how to rebuild a team. That'll be in the third segment. But in the next segment, we're going to go over, as I said, Andrew Vaughn. We're going to discuss him. Yeah, we're going to discuss him next, as he is this week's What Is It You Say You Do Here player. Next on Locked On White Sox. Mother's Day is coming up, and a great gift idea can come from DoorDash. Surprise mom from wherever you are with a fresh bouquet, the latest tech, gift cards, self care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. She a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. I might have to do that with my wife as she loves books, and my daughter is still of the age where I actually have to buy the gift. So get thoughtful gifts she deserves with the convenience you need. Choose same day delivery or schedule a week ahead for when flowers and gifts should arrive to her door from DoorDash. Shop with savings that will make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee, apply. Terms apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend 15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code Locked On MLB. That's Locked On MLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter, and I've gotten through my second full week hosting the show, but this is my third Friday doing Locked On White Sox. And one thing I've rhetorically asked on those two previous Friday episodes is the players, what is it you say you do here? I love that line from Office Space. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And this week's What Is It You Say You Do Here player is Andrew Vaughn. And he's getting closer and closer to having to move this from a slump to a bad season. The first baseman is off to a 170, 255, 216 slash line to start the season. He has an OPS of 471, a WRC plus of 41, and an F4 of minus 0.7. Last year's F4 was 0.4. So he's gone from a replacement level player to worse. And yes, I know it's April, but it's getting late early out here for him. Vaughn went 4 for 16 against the Twins, along with a walk. He was 4 for 22 total on the road trip, as he was 0 for 6 against the Phillies, with just 2 walks and struck out 5 times. He also struck out once in all 4 games against the Twins. That shows a sign of a guy who's pressing. And he has just 2 multi-hit games this season, 4 extra base hits, and no home runs yet. And this was supposed to be a player who was supposed to rake. He was fast-tracked to the big leagues because of his hitting ability. Now, did the Sox mess around with him during his first 2 seasons by playing him out of a position? Yeah, they bear some responsibility for that. But he also was steadily getting better in his power numbers. And now he is the first baseman full-time. An iconic position for this franchise. And at best, he's been a replacement level player. So much for my All-Star appearance prediction I had at the beginning of the season. And, is there still time to turn things around? Yes. But he is a mess at the plate right now. He needs a few days to sit down and clear his head. Gavin Sheets has been playing, obviously, really good this season. He's been a very pleasant surprise to start the season. And with Eloy back, and he's been hitting a little bit, you have had to play Gavin Sheets in right field just to get his left-handed bat in the lineup. How about this? Sit Andrew Vaughn down for a few games, and you can have Gavin Sheets play his proper position, first base, and Eloy can DH. And again, I'm not saying send Andrew Vaughn down to AAA. I've seen that floated around. I mean, it's a slump. I don't think it's, to the point. Like, if he's still at this pace in June, yeah, he's got to go down because he's going to have to rediscover himself in Charlotte if that happens. And again, he's trending towards a terrible season. Because when I was covering teams back in the day, I remember a beat reporter asking, I think it was a manager, forget which one is, a player was off to a bad start. I think it was like mid-May, and he said, "At what point do you classify this as no longer a bad start, but the makings of a bad season?" And I've always thought you got to look around Memorial Day, where it's like, oh boy, if he's still in this position around Memorial Day, yeah, you're trending towards a bad season. And then you give it to Flag Day before you can officially declare it's a terrible season or a bad season. This is what it is. Because if you haven't been hitting by then, it's really hard to turn things around. And then at that point, you just got to embrace the suck. And I think that's the problem for the White Sox, too. They just keep saying, oh, got to try harder. Going to come back tomorrow. We're going to work harder. And I know we blasted them in 2022 for that attitude, but right now they just need to maybe realize that baseball's fun. And yes, you got to put the work in to get better. You are the 0.1% of the 1% playing this game. But you can't be this tightly wound. You can't be afraid to lose, especially now. You're not going anywhere. As I stated in the first segment, this team can't beat anybody in the AL Central. Stop thinking you're going to win the division. Yes, you want to play to win, but stop looking at the big picture of we're going to win the division. We're going to compete. Look at us. We're grinding. We're TW. We got this great clubhouse culture. Nobody's quitting. Stop that. Just focus on today's game and how are we going to find a way to win it. And, Andrew Vaughn, he needs to realize that, okay, yes, you are, with Luis Robert Jr. out and Yohan Moncada out, you are now probably the second most talented bat in the lineup, and you do need to produce. But that's because of how talented you are. Not because, somebody put a blindfold on, turned around and spun and said, you got to be the guy. You got to be the guy based on the fact that you were a top draft pick. You raked in college. You were, propped up as the next superstar of the White Sox. You were going to take the baton that was, Paul Konerko handed to Jose Abreu. You've shown the promise. So just relax, man. Baseball is a game of failure, but try to drive the ball. Don't press. Maybe take a few more walks instead of swinging wildly. Fight off pitches. Do something, because right now I'm questioning what is it you say. I mean, I'm questioning what do you exactly do here besides get out a lot. Oh, you know what this team could use? You know what you and I can use? Some hope. So let's discuss next on Locked On White Sox. Hey, it's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can use that to put together some fun parlays or prop bets. Yes, prop bets. My old college roommate, what he does, He puts together bets that he feels confident he will win. He texted me that I think he took Miami on the money line, and I think he took the points as well that the Celtics were getting. And Miami won. He hit, but then he's going to throw in a parlay or two at a relatively low price, like or a prop bet too. Like, hey, is this game going to go into overtime? And hey, if it hits, fantastic. He's not putting a ton of money down on those bets. He's putting the one on, like, say, Miami to hit the money line on Miami. But he still has something extra to root for in the game. Helps amplify the experience. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. Again, I'm your host, Todd Welter. I want to thank you for sticking with me, especially you everydayers. We are a loyal bunch, you and I, if you're an everydayer. For some reason, we're in this toxic relationship. We keep thinking things will get better. And look, it's my fandom with the White Sox has always been a roller coaster. I was, my heart was broken when Harold Baines was traded when I was a kid. Then a few years later, you get 1990, and then you get 1993. Sox should have won the World Series in 94. There was the white flag trade in 97. 8 years later, the World Series. The rebuild technically yielded a division championship, but then it was self-sabotaged. So there is belief that, if a few correct moves are made, things can get better again. But it might be a long time. Well, maybe not a long time. It could take a few years. But right now, it just feels like there's no hope. While the rest of Chicago's pro sports franchises not owned by Jerry Reinsdorf have this thing called hope, especially after yesterday's NFL draft. The Bears drafted Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. Cubs have just called up Pete Crow Armstrong. They also have visions of an NL Central title. Blackhawks have Connor Bedard. The Chicago Sky have Brianna Maxwell and Angel Reese, who they just drafted. And the White Sox have Luis Robert Jr. on the IL. Oh, man, this team needs hope. And it was looking like pitcher Garrett Crochet was going to be a stud pitcher, at least give us something to watch every 5 days. But he is struggling. Eric Fetty's been nice to watch. But you'd probably think if he continues to play well, you're going to try to trade him because he has a relatively affordable deal and another year of team control. So where's the hope coming from? Because all this losing is not going to add up for a chance at the #1 overall pick next year. Sox, again, they're a large market team, and the rules prevent them from being in the MLB draft lottery for 2 years in a row. So the highest they can pick next year is 10th. So no Ethan Holiday for the White Sox, the projected top player in next year's draft. Ethan Holiday, he happens to be the brother of Jackson Holiday, son of Matt Holiday. So where is their hope? Well, Chuck Garfien, he tweeted out a couple days ago, so this was 2 losses ago. The White Sox are 3-20. I'm looking for hope wherever I can get it. The Birmingham Barons to the rescue. And then he points out the year starting rotation. Hirio Iriarte has a 0 ERA. Drew Thorpe, 0.5 ERA. Kai Bush, 1.65 ERA. Jordan Michael, 1.8 ERA. Mason Adams, 2.81 ERA. So the starting pitching, the young pitching that they have, does give you hope. You also got Nick Nastarini and Jonathan Cannon's promise. Nick Nastarini obviously was sent back down to AAA Charlotte, but in his first start, he showed why he's one of the team's top 10 prospects. He still should be with the team. Jonathan Cannon at least will get another start, but unless he's dominant, I have a feeling they're going to send him back down because Brad Keller and Mike Clevenger are getting close to being ready to actually pitch, in the major leagues. And I don't know why the Sox are going with veteran pitchers, especially those two, because the market has dictated nobody wants them. So I don't think you're going to get a ton of trade return for them. You got Noah Schultz. He's one of the White Sox top prospects. He's down in the minors too. So the Sox do have an opportunity to have a young and inexpensive starting rotation. And that's key because that gives you at least potentially 6 years of competitiveness. Look at the Milwaukee Brewers. Heck, look at the Oakland A's of the 2000s. Moneyball, again, keeps ignoring that the A's had Hudson, Zito, and Mulder for all that time. If you can get young, sorry about that. You can get young, talented, cheap starting pitching under control, that's going to give you an opportunity to be competitive. As long as it stays healthy and develops. But the Sox do have a lot of as you're seeing in Birmingham, they've got at least 3 pitchers that do project to be decent starting pitchers in the majors. Colson Montgomery, he's the Sox top prospect, and we're all excited about him, except he's off to a 222 average to start the season and a 685 OPS and 81 at bats. He has 3 home runs to start the season at AAA Charlotte. But don't worry, he didn't have a high average last year at AA. It was just 244, but he did have a 827 OPS during an injury-shortened season. So I'm not going to totally panic, but there is a reason, again, why Colson Montgomery needed to start the season at AAA. Catcher Edgar Quero, he's off to a 962 OPS start, has 5 dingers at AAA. He's the Sox 5th best prospect. He's another guy to get excited about. Although the Sox 4th best prospect, Brian Ramos, the guy that you're hoping will replace Yoan Moncada. Excuse me 1 minute. Sorry about that. He's off to an awful start. But again, you're not going to panic. It's still early. But still, even with all these prospects, especially the pitching, it's still not enough. This is why this year's draft is so important. The White Sox need to hit on this number 5 overall pick. And they need to hit it on at least 5 to 7 of these picks. They need an infusion of young talent. Because the organization is thinking, well, we'll just tank for a few years. Well, the rules prevent that now, at least for you. You don't get as many shots at top 10 picks anymore. So you need to collect a lot of talent in this draft, especially at number 5. You cannot get a bust in this year's draft. We need some hope. Add another player that can give us some hope. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Before I go, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And we'll be back on Monday to go over the Sox series against Tampa Bay. Yeah, that's right. The Rays are coming into town. Just when you think things couldn't get any worse. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and give a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. And let me know your thoughts on today's topics regarding the Sox miserable road trip, Andrew Vaughn's continued struggles, and the Sox needing some hope. You can give me that feedback on Twitter at ToddJDub or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. See you on Monday.